All right, guys, welcome to our webinar, the recap of the pandemic marketing. As I could tell, a lot of people were quite interested in the subject and also to find out about the business that we've actually been running as well. So let's kick off. My name is Alexei Kuleshov. Most of you would know me as the Managing Director of Hughes. We're a Google partner agency, and normally we do quite a few talks with Google. I consider myself an entrepreneur. I do run a number of businesses and I'm affiliated with quite a number of businesses myself. I like to look at things from an opportunity perspective, and I also do a fair bit of investing, property, shares, crypto lately. So if that's something you guys would want to have a chat afterwards, I'm more than happy to do so as well. I guess the difference of what we do at EasyOp Solutions is that we are results focused, and that's a really big difference with many other agencies that really focus on KPIs such as reach or potentially things like impressions. We basically want to focus on conversion process. And for us, what's key is to be involved in the process and understand the ins and outs of the business from the perspective of sales process and also fulfillment as well. We got a whole bunch of tools that we've actually built ourselves, and I'll go through a couple today. And we also run some marketing campaigns quite different as well, so I'll touch on them too. Our approach is very leveraged. So what we learn from some accounts, we try to apply to other accounts as well. And I think that is the best way to go in terms of being cost effective and also have the ability to give people the best solution for their business. And over the last couple of years, I've been offering a fair bit of coaching and consulting, which certainly helps a lot of businesses through marketing and sales side of things. I don't do business coaching as such. I focus mainly on the sales and conversion side of things. This is our team. We are very decentralized. We've got offices across Brisbane, Melbourne, and the Gold Coast. In case you're talking to any of these guys, this is what they actually look like. So we are very real, and we're there to help. I guess the agenda for today is just to jump into the actual workshop. I want to talk about what's worked best over the last 18 to 24 months. I want to talk about our refined approach. I want to talk about missed opportunities and new tools. And I was going to put together a case study. And when I started looking at it, I realized that a lot of people, wanted to know about something that wasn't just about, clicks or sales, the whole thing. So I thought I'd actually feature a business that I've been running myself this year. In fact, it's a startup that's been going on since late June. And lastly, I want to talk about preparing for 2022, at least the things that you need to be aware about, and then allow for question and answers. So that's okay. Potentially wait for the end, or if anything's burning, use the chat function of Zoom to put your question through, and I'll be able to either attend to it straight away or basically attend to it at the end of the webinar. All right, so let's talk about what worked best. I guess the end of March 2020, that's the lockdown. That's when it started. It was quite a significant milestone because there was a lot of uncertainty. And surprisingly, what I found was a lot of large businesses decided to stop their advertising almost immediately. I thought that was probably not the best decision. However, most of our clients that are small to medium businesses really gained from this opportunity, because suddenly their market share became greater, their cost per click became cheaper. And I found also that a lot of businesses that were relying on referrals have suffered as a result, because they've had the massive disruption of not being able to catch up with people face to face. So I think the actual start of the pandemic has created obviously a fair bit of chaos, but also a few opportunities as well. There were a lot of uncertainty about operations, and no one really knew what to do in what cases. The government obviously took their sweet time to came out with moving forward, and there was a lot of conflicting messages from the Prime Minister and the state premiers. And obviously you guys know all this stuff, but I just wanted to recap this because I think it's really important to understand exactly where those opportunities originated. And I guess the whole thing about people working from home, that's really chucked a spanner in the works with the e-commerce, getting quite hot as a subject overall. And I think there was quite a bit of confusion about the essential and non-essential businesses as well. And I think there was many ways to interpret the whole thing as no clear information for quite some time afterward. Now, based on all this recap, I found that quite a few businesses have benefited as a result. And look, we'll go through the presentation. I'll touch on some of these points a bit later on. So I guess what worked was the transparency of process. A lot of people were certainly concerned for their well-being, and they wanted to know exactly what the businesses were doing when it came to COVID-19. Now, the compliance and measures, obviously, I think it took a couple of months for the government to roll out clear instructions for various industries. We saw, obviously, a complete slowdown for dentists. They were basically put on hold for about two months, and they were only allowed to do essential, really urgent emergency type work. Now, that has basically created obviously a lot of chaos, and at the same time also created quite a few opportunities later down the track as well. Contactless trade worked really well. So people wanted to be able to get people to service their homes, plumbers, electricians, without necessarily contacting, or dealing with people from face to face. And having that on the website or within the marketing has certainly helped. There's a lot of businesses that are basically productized. They basically took their products that were normally services or tailored to make, turned into online stores, and that created a whole new channel as well. But overall, I found the biggest thing was putting customer first, just trying to sort of understand what people are wanting and potentially what their behavior was like, and making sure that whatever it is that you're showing on the website would actually reflect that. We found that putting notes on the website saying that we're taking the precautions for the COVID-19, that we are potentially following the guidelines and offering things like sanitizer and other things as well, even face masks, has really helped quite a fair bit. I guess when it comes to our approach has changed quite a fair bit within the last 18 months specifically. Before, we used to really focus more on conversion. So for us, it was more about the numbers. If someone gets phone calls, or if they get inquiries coming through or bookings, that was a KPI, and we were quite happy with that. We worked around the client's budget, even though we're not fans of it. But if a client comes forward and says, look, I have a budget of X, Y, Z, or I have an expectation of so many leads, we'd work around that. And we found that it sort of worked okay. But when you have this massive opportunity through the pandemic, you'd be silly not to be able to scale your business if the opportunity presents itself. We only address parts of the business. So if someone came forward and said, look, we need a new website, or we need Google Ads, we'd run that. We made a lot of assumptions around the business model, and we focused on the sales process as it was given to us. Our approach included some quick wins. So if someone wanted to get some results quickly, we'd run Google Ads, basically do our landing page and get probably the best cost per conversion outcome at an optimal price. But that was often focused on a single channel like Google Ads, like I said, and we try to sort of work seamlessly. So if a business got really busy, we didn't want to sort of interfere. We just wanted to keep supplying it with leads. Now, we found that during the pandemic that wasn't working that well, and one of the main things was that businesses were getting quite anxious about what's actually going on, and they wanted to understand exactly what everybody else was doing. Now, we changed to focus more on the outcome as opposed to the actual conversion. So the outcome that people wanted was to either stay in business, to grow, to potentially change their business model. We try to focus on opportunities. So, for example, a lot of people wanted specifically to start things like online stores. And we started looking at the digital presence as a whole, as opposed to just a single channel of marketing. Now, what that basically includes is that if anyone looks online, obviously your reputation is the first thing that popped up. We decided to address that as the main thing within our marketing campaigns, and establish a long-term plan. I think long-term plan is really what everybody wants, but for some reason, when people come to us and start talking about marketing, they don't think about that. So we started challenging people's business model and their sales process in order to make sure that we could help them sort of forecast for the future results. We started including things like social media, email marketing, everything else that we could include specifically to make sure we be on track with their goals. And overall, the whole process has changed so much from seamless towards service-based goals that people wanted. Don't get me wrong, there's quite a few businesses we work with that still prefer to work seamlessly. They're pretty busy, and all they want is basically just for the phone to ring. That's fine. But there are a lot of businesses that have realized that they really needed to put their hand up and let us know about what was on their mind, or potentially what opportunities they were presented with, and how they basically could work with us to achieve their goals. The problems with the old approach, I guess, yeah, we found that conversions that people would get, and I'm sure if any of you are doing some marketing, you'd see that as well. The calls that you get or the conversion you get don't always result in revenue. There's a lot of factors within the sales process that would prohibit that. Sometimes the phone call doesn't go for long enough. Sometimes people don't get through. Then you might be playing phone tag, or sometimes they're just not the right ones. We typically need that feedback to refine, but still overall, I find the problem is that you're only looking at it from the one perspective, so we had to change. We found that also a lot of businesses focusing on the budget as opposed to what was out there. So we wanted to sort of work not on the set budget, but more around the return on investment model, or return on ad spend, or ROIS, if you like. We found that looking at businesses often came up with very empty space where people didn't have an online reputation. Now, if someone's in business for 10 or 20 years, and when you look them up, they come up with no reviews or anything like that, I think that certainly sets some alarms. And I guess because we're going through a bit of a change in the generations, the younger generation will certainly expect to see some reviews if they're dealing with a legit business. We found that the quick wins were good, but not always sustainable. And that was a bit of an issue as well. So you ended up doing a lot of work to keep up the momentum, and that created a lot of pressure on us as well as the client. And yeah, I guess when the anxiety comes in, people aren't always, sure about what's happening and if they're heading in the right direction. So we thought it was a time to change. So for us, understanding the whole business, I guess identifying bottlenecks within the client acquisition was really the key. We found that there are really simple ways to enhance the sales process. And the main thing was to match the sales process to the consumer behavior, so you could actually get, really smooth conversions happening between the actual business and the customer. And one other thing was obviously getting business to stand out. One of the biggest thing that we find is that people go and try to copy their competitors, or they try to do exactly the same thing as everybody else. Well, it doesn't work. You really need to make sure you stand out. There's got to be something different about you if you're serious about marketing online. I guess the way we look at it is there's a ton of opportunities, and every problem presents an opportunity. In a matter of fact, every time there's a chaos, there's so many things that come up as a result of that. It's unbelievable. I mean, through this pandemic, I've probably seen more Mercedes and Beamers driving around the streets of Brisbane and the Gold Coast. And, I've once been told by my mentor a while back that every recession or every depression creates more millionaires than the stable times. And yeah, I've really started to notice that as well. And then when you talk to people, you would never think about some of the things that they're up to. But I guess that all really comes down to understanding what competitors do, understanding consumer behavior, and making sure that you don't follow the majority, and plan ahead as well, which I know is tough, especially when you don't know what's coming up. But there are a few things that you can certainly do to prepare yourself. In terms of omnichannel, I found that the user journey was often much more complicated. And look, we meet with our team twice a week to discuss various accounts to make sure that we're on track and we're using the right tools. And I found that people don't just go through a Google ad and inquire or buy. They need to go and check out your Google My Business, go check out your social media accounts, and have a look at what you've done on other channels. And then you may be surprised, but it could be an email that you send out that triggers a particular sale, even if it had no sale intent altogether. We often found that awareness was missing. So awareness is at the top of the funnel. We'll cover that shortly. But a lot of businesses were basically marketing without presenting themselves to the market in the first place and clearly sort of stating what they do. There were many distractions for people. So if someone started looking online, something else popped up, and the market became overcrowded quite quickly as well. I mean, it is already overcrowded, but when you sort of, let's say, get everyone to go home, to work from home, people start buying things right, left, and center. And that's exactly what happened. There's multiple touch points as well. What I mean by that is people will start their journey on the computer, continue on their mobile, and may end up purchasing on an iPad. There are different journeys for many different businesses, and it's really a matter of pulling this apart and looking at some analytical data. We found that the key to the whole thing was making sure that the campaign the campaign was basically structured to fit the user behavior as opposed to the other way around. We found that way too many people sort of hope for something, they set it up and they thought, well, people will follow it. Well, I guess the biggest lesson is that you're not your customer. If you're thinking that you would do something, that is often not the case for your customers. Long-term plan. Well, look, we decided to stress test the sales process by doing a bunch of different things, testing a few things out for every single business that we work with. Our process is typically about wrapping the sales, the marketing around the sales process. Who's picking up the phone? How do they talk? What's the selling point? What's the follow-up process? And make sure that the marketing plugs nicely into that. We found that building effective campaigns was really more about building audience as opposed to just focusing on everybody. And an audience would be a distinct group of people that had geographical and demographic characteristics as well as interests in certain areas. So you could actually build an effective campaign for a business if you're targeting homeowners or men or women or potentially people by a certain age or on a particular device or time of day. And all this stuff can really fit into the picture if you understand where these people are at the time of marketing. We found that inquiries and sales were good, but the main thing was really building a list. A lot of people still underestimate the power of having a list. I mean, if you're going to talk to any salespeople, that's all they want. And essentially, if you look at businesses like BCF, Anaconda, or anything like that, at the checkout, they'll always ask you, are you a member? Would you like to become one? What's your number? And essentially, that is the process that they've put in place, and that allows people to sort of come back and get marketing to cycle through and remind them about all the sales. They've done it really well, and it's really quite intuitive and makes sense. And I've seen a lot of small businesses where they have failed to do something like that. We found that the long-term plan is really to re-engage and upsell your past clients, because if you're leaving your list uncontacted and potentially not talking to them in any way, you're leaving money on the table. We find that doing business with somebody that you've done business with in the past is typically the easiest thing to do. A lot of people are going after new clients, but I think it's the old clients that a lot of people undervalue. So that is really the power of the list. And we found that the long-term plan is really all about getting reviews and referrals. And these two things basically fall into the marketing funnel that we're going to cover shortly. But overall, I guess it's all about your online reputation. I mean, it's pretty crazy, but majority of people trust complete strangers in their reviews when it comes to restaurants and businesses, but that's just the world that we live in. So if we are to look at a traditional or classic marketing funnel, as you like, and you'll find this in just about all the marketing textbooks, they will basically say, hey, run an awareness campaign, go to interest, make sure you capture the desire and bring people to action, pretty straightforward. So let's say you run your billboards, then you basically do your Google ads, and then basically from there get people to inquire, and then from there call them and sell them. So that's essentially the mechanism. I mean, it's not wrong, but it's a bit limited. It's almost like it's only focused on a single transaction, and I'm sure most of the businesses are not focused on a single transaction. You really want to build a relationship and get that customer to come back or refer other people. So we found that there was a concept that we sort of been working on for a while. We found that the marketing funnel itself actually became a bit of a wheel, and we call it the growth marketing funnel. And the first, I put this diagram together, and I'll explain in a second why. We found that the awareness itself is just the first part of the process. So you present someone with, let's say, a Facebook ad saying, hey, we're your Easy Web Solutions, we do Google ads or something like that. Considerations when people start searching for you, hey, I need a marketing company, and you can actually show them ads specifically on that first interaction of awareness. Conversions where people buy from us or basically make the inquiry. And that's typically where the classic funnel stops. Now, from there, you basically would want people to go and come back to you for other services. That's the loyalty side of things. And 80% of businesses aren't doing something like that. And the last part is advocacy. So 95% of businesses don't do anything like that. And advocacy is where you get referrals from your clients, which is the best form of marketing. Now, I know a lot of you obviously will get referrals from your networking groups or potentially some groups or communities or something like that. But purposely, a lot of businesses are missing this part. And we find that you can certainly kick off the whole thing with Facebook or YouTube ads or banners, and then from there go to search, and then do remarketing, and then do more remarketing, and then get reviews and get referrals. But overall, what we find is that this particular wheel, if you like, turns into this growth funnel, which is what we call it. And it's really more about awareness to a qualified market. Let's agree, you don't want to show your ad to everybody. I mean, it may work, but at the end of the day, every time you show your ads to somebody, it's going to be costing you money. Consideration is really turning that market into prospects. Conversion is really more about those people inquiring and becoming leads. Sale is your sales process or potentially an online conversion. And then repeat customers in your loyalty. And then it's the actual referrals that come through advocacy. We found that this was the model that relationship-focused businesses really wanted. It was more cyclical as opposed to vertical. I mean, the whole thing just goes around in loops. It's highly cost-effective if you set it up right, and it's very scalable. Now, scalability of a business is probably the main thing that you want, because a lot of the time people just work within the business, but not on the business, and they have no idea where the actual business is going. Scalability is all really about understanding, what the mission of and the vision of the business is, and where it is that you want to take it. Do you want to franchise it? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to have an exit strategy? Do you want to, what is it that you want to do with it? And we found that doing marketing, not in the classic way, but potentially in this growth funnel stage, works really well. And you can easily pick the right channel for the right step of the funnel and basically go between not just digital, but also some print and traditional advertising as well. Missed opportunities. Now, missed opportunities is an interesting topic, and I guess we can talk about it all day long, but I found that the biggest thing by far within the COVID pandemic was that people didn't take advantage of a bigger share of the market. We found that the cost per click has dropped for most industries from about, well, percentage-wise, 20 to 60%. It's quite a substantial figure, and we found that we first really saw that within the trades. The big companies have pulled out pretty much straight away. I have no idea why. I mean, obviously, they sort of try to minimize their budgets or potentially, prolong certain things, but just makes no sense to me from a long-term perspective. Maybe they don't have a long-term plan. I don't know. But we found that, basically getting almost double the amount of leads for the same sort of money has certainly created a lot more opportunities. Yes, people were a lot more mindful about purchases, but then I guess looking into opportunities like afterpay, where people could pay for something a little bit later, or payment options offered, that's really helped quite a lot. We found that automation was another big opportunity as well. A lot of people try to do everything by hand, and if you basically carried along and got double the amount of leads and try to do things old school, you'd be very tired. In fact, we found that last year a lot of people didn't take any Christmas holidays. Maybe that rings the bell for some of you, but we found that the amount of work didn't really go anywhere. It was more about the market and how the market was reacting. Putting simple automations in place like autoresponder emails, or potentially using CRMs and stuff to manage leads to get back to people on time, really creates a nicer flow. And we use quite a number of systems specifically for our businesses and our clients as well, I guess across various industries. And look, given the fact that we work with dentists, we work with a lot of health professionals, we work with a lot of trades, we work with a lot of legal businesses, we can certainly help you choose the right system and also integrate it with your website as well. Focusing on ideal clients was a huge opportunity that was missed by a lot of businesses. Put it this way, every business has got an 80-20 split on it. So there's 20% of your customers that get you 80% of the results. Now imagine if everything's just doubled. So let's say if we're talking about trades, in my opinion, the wise decision would be to let go of the work that is not profitable and focus on the work that is. However, a lot of businesses thought different, and they thought, well, we're just going to work more, work harder. And I guess as a result, what's happened right now is that it's really hard to get staff. A lot of people who were on the tools basically decided to go and start their own businesses and got busy pretty quickly, because overall there was a shortage of labor and a lot of people wanted to get things done straight away. I mean, it is quite logical. I mean, if you think about it, someone who wanted to do renovation suddenly gets locked inside their house for a couple of months. Yeah, they definitely want to finish those bathrooms and those decks and everything else. And that's exactly what happened. We found that using old marketing campaigns and tactics didn't really work quite well. It either got very expensive very quickly, or potentially stopped working altogether because there's a lot of people on the market. We work with some driving schools, and we found that because of the uncertainty, a lot of them put their marketing budgets on hold because they pretty much had a queue of people that they had to push back in terms of their appointments, and they just were uncertain as to when things were going to happen. As a result, probably dozens of driving schools originated out of nowhere and started marketing in a completely different way. So the whole industry has just changed pretty much within a matter of a couple of months. So using old tactics doesn't always work. It's obviously a good idea to get a bigger market share for the whole thing, for your whole budget that you're using to advertise. But I think it probably requires a bit of an overhaul. And I guess if you are working with any marketing agencies, and there are some substantial changes, and look, believe me, seasonally, there is quite a lot of change happening anyway. You should definitely discuss these sort of things and plan forward. We still have a marketing calendar download on our website. I'm not sure if you've seen that or not, but basically early in the year, we've put together a marketing calendar with all the key events that you should potentially consider throughout the year, just to be ready and potentially plan your automations around as well. If you haven't done anything like that, maybe you could do something like it yourself. There's big milestones that you really don't want to miss out. Like this weekend is, Black Friday, and Black Friday is the biggest sales event of the year. If you're selling anything online, or if you've got a product, this is an opportunity that you definitely should be taking advantage of. And another thing about that is people are actually starting to expect sales from businesses in those times. It's almost like they sometimes delay their purchase and wait for these things. And if you're not going to put together a sale, well, somebody else may. About the bigger market share, I guess we found that less competitors also meant that there were lesser points of difference. So people didn't really push for different things so much. Before there'd be somebody who pushed their price bid guarantee, and then suddenly they were not advertising anymore. So there's really a lot of space. Having less competitors overall really gives you a lot of opportunities. Most of the time, people just don't know what those competitors were doing in the first place. So it's almost like if people started to search and your competitors had no awareness marketing, then those people would come straight through to you. I thought that was huge. So at the same time, that doesn't give many options for the consumer, which sort of feels like there is a bit of scarcity of things as well. And I'm sure the trades would find that their conversion rates went up immensely because suddenly they just only saw one or two people available, and if they called somebody, they were too busy. So there you go. That's the bigger market share problem. Automation, like I said, scheduling, follow-ups, promotions. So making sure you've got all your seasonal promotions sent out, in emails, SMSs. SMS is a great one. And look, you certainly need a good system to do this, but 99% open rate. And look, you definitely need to have a good relationship with your list if you want to do that. But sending out cold SMSs can also backfire as well. So just be careful if you do that. Email marketing, on the other hand, probably a 30-40% open rate on average with a decent list that you have a relationship with, and definitely the low-hanging fruit right there. Easiest thing you can do is basically just use something like Gravity Forms on your website to set up a automation saying, "Hi, your email has been received. We'll get back to you shortly." Because a lot of the time, people are still wondering if that query has gone through. What's going to happen next? Are these people even open? Is there a human being behind this whole thing? So there's just a lot of uncertainty, and I'm sure you've been in those customer shoes yourself. Ideal clients. So just to touch on this in a bit more detail, I guess it's all really about focusing on profits. I mean, you run a business, I'm sure, because you love it. But at the end of the day, it's the profit that you're after. You really need to understand the 80-20 split of your business. If you haven't done the analysis, have a look at your accounting system, chat to your accountant and ask them, look, what's the most profitable side of my business? What should we be focusing on? I guess, where is the money in my business? What should I potentially drop? And look, it's a tough one because we're often emotionally attached to what we do. And it's really a matter of understanding where the money is because, look, I get it. Sometimes we do a transaction and we get some money through, and it could create an opportunity for the future. But at the end of the day, you have to pay your wages, you have to pay your mortgage, and you have to pay your taxes as well. You have to evaluate the business model. And oftentimes, business models are full of holes, or maybe there is no business model. Someone just falls into a business and starts doing it. Specializing, we found, is the key when it comes to getting ideal clients, because you really want to get people that see you as a specialist. This is a good way for you to charge more. This is a good way for you to weed out some tire kickers and potentially, focus on the right sort of things. With things like ideal clients, we saw roofing companies focusing on commercial work as opposed to domestic work, and that's exactly what they wanted. And suddenly, a lot of that stuff came in. Just like overnight, they have picked up a lot of work and were able to establish themselves as a commercial-based roofing company. And obviously, those relationships would go for a long time. New tools. Let's have a look at some of the new tools. Look, some of these things you may know about, some of the things you may not, some of the things you think, well, I wish I knew about this sooner. So let's have a look at Happy Clients. Now, Happy Clients, and look, I've put a free trial link in there, is a tool that we actually built ourselves. This is an SMS-driven platform that allows you to set up a very simple portal that only asks for name, phone number, and that's it in order to request a review. Now, I'm sure many of you have asked a client in the past to leave them a review, and everyone says, yep, no problem, I'll get you a review. But it never happens. Sending a link to people via email sometimes is a bit cumbersome because they sort of try to follow it through, but something usually pops up. We found the most direct way to get the reviews is via SMS. So imagine this: someone comes and let's say a plumber comes to someone's home and does a good job, and they say, "Oh, look, great, very happy with your work," and the plumber would say, "Would you mind leaving us a review?" And the person say, "Absolutely." So the next thing the plumber would do is punch in someone's name and mobile number, and the customer would receive an SMS saying, "Hi, thank you for your business. Please take a minute to leave us a review, ABC Plumbing." And we found that was the most direct process. The reason being is that it's simple, it's direct, it's SMS, being open 99% of the time. And most of the time, people were logged in on their phones, that led them into Google directly. And I know for a lot of businesses, it's quite an obstacle where they say, "Oh, people don't want to log in." Well, that's the way Google verifies their reviews. And overall, we found that it's all about being user-focused. It's about understanding the actual environment that the user is in, the actual customer is in. So the whole thing was about taking the unnecessary steps out of those reviews. So check out Happy Clients. There's a 7-day free trial. I'm sure you'll love it, and we've got quite a number of businesses using it. For example, these ones. If you're going to look for truck hire Brisbane, Able Truck Hire comes up quite high. And what we really want to achieve here is we really want to stand out with the number of reviews. So as you can see, they've got 366, and their closest competitor goes 124. I'm sure you would have seen that before, and this is the sort of tool that would allow you to achieve results like that. Auto house storage, 80 reviews in comparison to 10 and 23. So the number of reviews itself is one of the signals for organic SEO. And look, I won't go into too much details, but overall, you really want to stand out. I mean, business with 1 or 2 reviews just won't cut it in 2022. So I do recommend looking at your competitors and see if you can get enough reviews to stand out. Phone Manager. Now, this has been a secret weapon for our business and a few of our clients as well. This has sort of come about where we started looking at our client sales process, and we found that, let's say if a tradie was on the go, let's say someone's really busy, and over the last year, that's obviously become a lot more prominent. They couldn't take the calls, and a lot of the time they were just calling people back. So playing that phone tag certainly annoys a lot of people, and oftentimes you just don't get through. So we found that recruiting some Filipino VAs into phone managers, worked very effectively. So what we've done is we basically trained them specifically for the system that the business was using. And in this particular case, we're doing it for Geo. Geo is a similar tool to ServiceMate, and it allows to, for tradies to book their appointments and jobs, and basically even create invoices and stuff through Xero. So it's quite a nice tool. we found that the whole thing was very much customer oriented. So someone calls up and says, hey, I'd like a quote. I'd like a free quote, which is what most trades offer on their website. And then the phone manager, someone in the Philippines, would actually book that through Geo. And then next thing is the tradie would look at their phone and they see that they've got an appointment. Look, we normally work with the actual clients to schedule, specific arrangements. So let's say we want the calls to come through in the morning, and we'd run ads in that specific way. We want the phone managers to pick up phone calls and potentially send emails, and also do invoice follow-ups and other things as well. And overall, that whole thing was one of the best projects that we've actually worked on. We've got quite a number of clients using it right now, and you can check out the website, which we actually just launched recently. You'll be surprised, what you can get and how motivated these guys are in terms of what they do. In fact, if you are to call Your Easy Web Solutions right now, you'll meet Anna, who's actually our phone manager. Now, she really has been like a pivotal tool for us to take all the key information, because look, I'm sure, like you guys, we get bombarded with spam calls. We get phone calls from other digital marketing agencies, and that's quite embarrassing that this happens. But we need to filter out those things and make sure that no one gets distracted. So if you do call Your Easy Web Solutions, you'll speak to Anna, and straight away we've got Slack that we use for internal tools that she uses to communicate that through to us. So normally within a matter of minutes, we'd know about who's calling and who needs a call back. So that's our way of doing things. We are also using local numbers as well. So when the phone managers work, they have an 07 number for Brisbane, 03 for Melbourne. And if they call out, they will basically use the same thing as well. It's quite an interesting tool that we found that allows us to do that. Active Campaign. Now, some of you may know about this, and you may be using MailChimp or Klaviyo. There's quite a number of tools, but what we found with Active Campaign really good was that there was some really cool automation recipes on the website. So they actually allow you to pick a particular recipe, saying, okay, I'd like to follow up people for, inactive clients, or potentially send a follow-up to people who have, paid an invoice or something like this. It's got a lot of integrations, a lot of really cool things. So we decided to look into it further, and then we started using it for things like opt-ins. So if you go to one of our websites, there's a name and email capture that is driven by Active Campaign. All the follow-up emails, Active Campaign. Conditional logic, if someone does something and time of the day, or there's something that triggers it, would be done through Active Campaign. One of the biggest things specifically for online stores was abandoned shopping carts. Now, this is where, and I'm sure you would have done this, you go to checkout, you reach the actual shopping cart, you look at your shipping costs or whatever, and then you go away and you forget about it. Now, abandoned carts would actually send you an email saying, hey, you have an order that's pending, and potentially adding a bit of an incentive, saying things like get 5% off or something like that. Really gets people over the line. We have used that quite extensively, and we've been able to split test using our own projects as well, and that's worked really, really well. So that's a recap of Active Campaign. It's obviously not a new tool, but it is for us. And we found that using tools like Active Campaign certainly helps, and you'd be adding at least 10%, and most importantly, that bottom of the funnel that we've discussed that most businesses don't even bother with. Now, this is the interesting part, the econ business. And look, I know a lot of you guys have expressed some interest in this. I actually didn't expect that, but I was thinking about doing a case study, and I looked at one business and another, and look, there's been some really good ones to work with. But earlier this year, I actually caught up with a good friend of mine who was able to come from Melbourne around April, when they opened up all the bubbles and stuff. And they basically do a fair bit of work with the Victorian government when it comes to energy efficiency. So they actually do a fair bit of stuff with various companies that sell electrical supplies. And they said, look, that we've basically been made aware that there's a bit of a change in the Queensland smoke alarms legislation. So what could we is there something we could potentially do? So going from there, we basically started working on that. But look, before I jump into the story of this econ business, I thought I'd just say thank you to Lachlan, who's actually one of our clients. That's the owner of Waterhouse Storage, because he's actually got me thinking and inspired me to do a business like that in the first place. Lachlan came to us for Google Ads initially, and then I ended up doing some coaching for him, for sales coaching. There's actually a podcast that you can find on our website, in case you're wondering. It's called Marketing Evolution Podcast. He basically was experiencing quite a downturn in his business, which is storing cars. We found that the whole thing was mainly triggered by people going overseas, but look, he had a bit of a market, and we helped him with his sales process. So even though the numbers have dropped, he was able to keep his capacities and everything. That was good. He was looking outside the box and thinking, well, could I potentially do something and start another business, look at something. And he started a business called the Cover Shop. Now, this is basically selling car covers for prestige cars, and there's obviously quite a few things in there. And I'm sure if you drive a prestige car, you may be interested in one of these things. But he, after the first month, he said to me, mate, I wish I looked at this further. This business turns out to be a lot more profitable than storing cars, with a lot less overheads as well. Lachlan still runs auto house storage, but this business has gone completely bananas. And if you do want to check it out, the Cover Shop is the name of the business. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you before I jump onto my own stuff, because I think it's important to acknowledge this. So, smoke alarm business. A mate of mine basically, had a bit of a connection to electrical supplier with a really good product called Emerald Alarms. So I've done my research, and I have put together this business. And look, it was a momentary thought, but overall, what we wanted was the main keywords within the main name and the name of the business. And we actually managed to secure a business name called Photoelectric Smoke Alarms. That is a registered trading name. You can check it out on the ABR website. And we launched this project at the end of June. So it was a super competitive market. I mean, if you look for smoke alarms, there's Bunnings, there's all the electrical suppliers, plus there's a whole ton of local businesses as well. We basically went with the online store, even though we thought, well, we could get some inquiries. And we actually started supply and install from September. So this is what the website looks like. And I guess what we wanted to do is really to make it all about the consumer. Like I said, we do a lot of split testing. We do a lot of things behind the scenes, and running our own project allows us to sort of tap into everything without really having to ask for permission. We just went and tested out anything we wanted. People wanted a money back guarantee. Not many people had it. We wanted to make sure that the warranty of the product stood out, the fact that it was compliant, the fact that the whole thing was interconnected, which was the main thing within the government legislation change. And then we wanted to present all the various products. So if you want to check out the website, it's there. We basically did some things on pricing, images. One big thing we've done was packaging products. We found that selling products in packs of 5 and 10 and adding some freebies in there has really made quite a big difference, because most of the time people weren't just buying one single alarm. We found that offering express post and doing it through couriers and stuff didn't really make a difference, so we actually took that off. With that, I must say that Australia Post does a really good job, and I guess the main advantage of Australia Post versus some couriers is that if you don't deliver a product, especially when it's regional, they basically just leave it at a local post office. Now, I'm sure you would have had the hassle of trying to track down your parcel if the couriers couldn't come through, and then it's just a whole disaster. So we found that as well. We also found that a lot of people wanted to pay for express shipping, but express really wasn't an option all the time, because they wanted it tomorrow. They were happy to pay more, but we couldn't fulfill it. And that created a bit of a bottleneck as well. We did some split tests around afterpays and other things as well. But what I found fascinating was that PayPal was actually one of the biggest forms of payments that people preferred. We've obviously run Google campaigns, Facebook, SEO, email marketing, like you name it. We've done the whole lot, and remarketing campaigns as well. And we still are doing it, and we still are fine-tuning it as well. Now, this is a screenshot from a couple of days ago when I sent that email initially. So 425,000 from the end of June. I've actually had a look at it. It's just over 5 months. That is pretty major, I think. And as you can see, the graph keeps inclining. Well, keeps going up. And it's interesting to see what's going to happen on the 1st of January. But so far, this business has been sort of setting records just about every single month. Our findings, and look, if you're doing anything online, I think this is important, is to realize that mobile is key. So 80% of people would look for things like this on the mobile. You need to make sure that it's about user needs first. It's not about the product, it's about user needs. Are they on the right page? Are they finding what they need? Because if you bluntly give people a product and another website has got the same product, I mean, who do you think is going to win? It's basically the one that provides either customer service or provides all the right information in front of them. And that's what we found worked really well. We also found that it wasn't a straightforward process. People would do a fair bit of research. So basically setting up reputation sources, things like product review certainly helped a fair bit as well. PayPal, 25% of all purchases. I thought that was incredible. I mean, I'm not a big fan of PayPal myself, but in this particular case, as a business owner, I'll take it. Afterpay and ZipPay, about 15% of all purchases. With ZipPay, probably only a few, but Afterpay worked out quite well. We have got a pop-up on the website with a 5% discount, but we found that less than 10% of all people are taking that offer up, even though they're signing up for it. It's quite interesting. Certainly helps us build up a list, but yeah, it doesn't really quite work in terms of people taking it up for some reason. I don't know. We found that email marketing is vital. Every time we send an email, the sales just go through the roof. And last one we did was last weekend about the Black Friday coming up. That's really boosted the whole thing. We also found that a lot of people were asking about supply and install. So like I said, we've launched that side of the business under a different brand called Super Cheap Smoke Alarms. And that is really all about utilizing our phone manager, Manual, who basically takes all the calls from this business and then schedules it through Geo to electricians that we've got. So it's quite a decentralized business model. And look, I'd be happy to talk more about this if you guys are interested in maybe another webinar, because I think this is quite a huge project to cover. But I thought I'd go over it just to let you know what's actually worked, because a lot of this stuff would certainly resonate with what you're doing. And you could probably just learn from this alone as to what you could be trying for your businesses, whether it's product or service based. This is our analytical data. And as you can see, majority of traffic came through Google CPC, which is the Google Ads. And when we say Google Ads, it's the Google Ads itself, plus the products ads, plus the banner ads. And then we've had Facebook being quite aggressive, paid campaign and organic. Bing was quite interesting as well. And this particular slide is a bit small, but yeah, there's also newsletters as well. That's done quite a lot as well. As you can see, this graph just keeps growing, so it's quite a nice one. I guess there are some key milestones that I want to share with you as well. So once we launched the website and did the competitor research, we found that packaging products was really quite a good way for people to buy. Selling one product, would cost us about $25 in terms of the cost per sale. Selling, 5 products with one controller for 5 times the cost would still cost us $25. And if you're able to package things up, I think that's a really big takeaway for you. We found that getting online reputation with happy clients have certainly helped our SEO. And in our space here in Brisbane, because don't forget, we're only covering Queensland with this campaign, although we do get interstate buyers buying alarms for the Queensland investment properties. We are focusing mainly on Queensland. So getting our office to stand out really worked within the Google My Business. Our goal with this business is to keep scaling to a maximum market share. Now, what that basically means, once you run campaigns, you can't just go and spend 10 grand. You basically will be able to spend it gradually as Google identifies that market, given the fact that your ads are set up properly. So obviously, because we run a Google partner agency, we've got obviously quite a few insights on that. But our goal was to scale to the market share at the right cost per conversion. So we didn't want to just go boom, even though we could probably speed up the process, but the cost per conversion would be quite high. So we wanted to sustain that, under $35 all up while growing. And then, as you can see, the whole thing is scaled up quite nicely. We found that fulfillment was a bit of an issue, obviously, shortages of supply, and we had to run things like pre-order, which actually was quite interesting that it didn't impact our sales at all. We just put up all the products to pre-order because we were worried that people would be bothered by that. 3 weeks we had to wait for products. Conversion rate remained the same. In fact, it was growing. And then we thought, why don't we try something like putting in stock instead of pre-order? And that was one of the things that made us stand out. So if you are running some online stores, in your product description, add in stock. That actually worked really, really well for us, because we found that a lot of our competitors at the time didn't have the stock. I've mentioned about the shipping, and yeah, increasing postage was an interesting one as well. At one stage, I realized that we were just sort of playing fair, covering the cost of shipping, but we didn't really cover handling very much. So I added another $5, it didn't make a difference. Add another $2, didn't make a difference at all. So then we basically increased the price per order to $300 to qualify for the free shipping, and that didn't make a difference either. SEO rankings took about 2 months to kick in, and the organic side of things is probably the most profitable. So if you are sort of looking for marketing channels and where to invest, SEO is definitely something that you should not ignore. Getting manual, our phone manager, best decision ever made, because initially for the first month, I was actually taking the calls myself. I needed to understand exactly what people want. But then once I could see that the trend was very similar, we basically just scripted the whole thing and got manual, and he's phenomenal. I mean, if you call the number on the Smoke Alarms website and speak to him, you'd be blown away. Really good customer service, very switched on. And yeah, overall, phone manager, like I said, is an awesome project. Increasing prices, we've done that at the end of August and beginning of October as well, and letting people know about the price increases certainly played a big role. Amazon and eBay. Now, these two are connected to our online store, and we found that eBay works okay, even though that the market there is looking for bargains. Amazon didn't work so well. And the reason being is that Amazon only focuses on selling single product. It doesn't like bundles. So we couldn't get our bundle product in there. So unfortunately, we had to turn that off, and yeah, we're no longer using that, but we probably made a couple of grand worth of sales selling single products where people had to choose a quantity. And I would have thought that's not too much of a bottleneck, but in my findings, if you make something simpler, like adding a package for people and obviously add a bit of an incentive, like a better price, that actually works out a lot better. And lastly, last thing we've been looking at things like QR codes and print campaigns. So adding a QR code to a piece of print advertising and sending it out has really worked quite well as well. And we currently are in the process of including the QR codes in our happy clients. Because if anyone's doing business cards or flyers where someone could scan something to get something for free, they could certainly do that and get a Google review as a result as well, which is what we're doing. So yeah, if you look for Photoelectric smoke alarms, we come up #1 organically, followed by Bunnings, interestingly enough, and they are a big competitor. But yeah, our products are priced better, and they are an awesome product as well. I am quite pleased that we've got a good supplier. And overall, I have researched other brands as well, but I'm quite happy with what we've got right now. So that is that. I guess what I wanted to say is, this whole project has got me to think about, what is it that we want to do in 2022? And overall, we often get people coming to us with great ideas. I'd be more than happy to work with someone who's got awesome products or niche specific services, or potentially looking for a partnership or a joint venture similar to this one. We're getting a lot of entrepreneurs over the years who basically have got various things popping up, and we'd love to work with more people like that. And if you don't have any ideas, but you've got a business that you want to sort of look at potentially, we could work together as well. So if any of this is of any interest to you, make an inquiry online, and we'll certainly have a chat. These are some of the other businesses that I'm involved in, so I just thought I'd put this out there. My wife runs a home style cleaning business called Home Style Cleaning. It's domestic cleaning in Brisbane. We basically do all the marketing for that, and I help her along with the whole flow. And we have a phone manager in that business. I have a business called Prestige Smile, which is an online store selling teeth whitening products. I have a business called Home Style Fish Ponds, which is sort of a sister company of Home Style Cleaning, and we also do water tanks there as well. So that is the key there. Super cheap smoke alarms that I mentioned before. We've got True Blue Fencing. Now, True Blue Fencing is a business that sort of stalled quite a fair bit because it's hard to find contractors, but it does get us quite a few inquiries. And my mum runs a wedding alterations business called Tatiana Alterations. So the reason why I'm presenting, the reason why I'm mentioning these businesses is that I look at not just the marketing, but the overall process of acquiring the client, sales process, and then what happens afterwards. Because every business has got 4 distinct areas: marketing, sales, the actual business itself, and then accounting. If the whole thing flows, then there's no reason why you should be able to scale and have a successful business. If you've got gaps in the business, that's where the problems may potentially come up. But anyway, I thought I'd just mention these as well. And look, for all these businesses, we use Happy Clients, and we use a phone manager for most of them as well. Preparing for 2022, and I'm sure, look, you probably got a ton of questions from that session, but let's just wait until the end. There's only a few slides to go. So preparing for 2022. Look, I don't have a crystal ball, but I've done some research, and I found that Forbes reckons there's going to be a huge disruption of supply chain. Now, I already see that. We have some clients that basically are in the shipping container industry, and they are struggling to get stock. The whole thing is more expensive now, and as a result, it's obviously causing the price of logistics to go up. We're finding that there is an issue with labor at the moment. I mean, it's all throughout the world. There seems to be some sort of a problem where people are just not in the right state of mind, or maybe just doing something else. It's hard to say. We're moving towards deglobalization, which is where everything's that's been sort of connected tends to sort of go back. And I don't know how exactly that's going to go, but that's specifically from Forbes. And overall, they reckon there's going to be price increases right, left, and center due to inflation, logistical issues, and a few other matters as well. What we think overall is that there's definitely going to be a change in consumer behavior. So whatever people are doing right now will certainly change. Now, if we look at the data from the last pandemic over 100 years ago, the Spanish flu, we found that the middle class started to spend afterwards. So it's almost like the rich got richer, the poor got poorer, and the middle class sort of sat there idle thinking, what's going to happen? Let's prepare for worse. And after that, they started spending. That's when, the Ford started selling a lot of affordable cars, and a lot of other things happened. Look, I'm not going into history too much, but all I'm trying to say is that the middle class spending is typically what happens after a recession or a pandemic. And that's what we're expecting as well. We also seeing that there are some changes in data privacy that are basically being enforced by YouTube, Google, well, Alphabet, the whole thing, and Facebook, which is obviously Meta. Now, there's many reasons for it, but just keep an eye out. There'll be various emails being sent to you. You just need to understand exactly what they're trying to do. And overall, it's sort of the continuation of that GDPR that sort of happened a couple of years ago. There's going to be new forms of tracking on the website. As some of you may know, cookies will become no longer available. So if you have a website that's set up for a couple of years, you may potentially lose all your tracking in the next 6 to 12 months. And we're finding that there's a bit of a shift in social platform use. Now, this happens every 3 to 4 years. People go from Facebook to Instagram, Instagram to TikTok. There's got to be something else coming up as well. That's our forecast. In terms of our recommendations, I recommend make sure you understand Google Trends. It's a free tool. Google it up. You'll be able to see what people are searching for. Learn to read and understand data. So if you look at analytics, what does it actually mean? Ask questions, guys. Make sure you're engaged with specialist people and get people with skills rather than trying to do everything yourself. I found that in the pandemic, that wasn't really the smart thing to do. A lot of people had a lot of free time on their hands, but it didn't quite work out. And overall, keep an eye out for changes in standards and legislations. For us, that's obviously created quite a big opportunity. And don't be afraid to fail. Trying and failing is not the worst thing that can happen. You'll learn from it. Why I do what I do? I mean, I like to make a difference. I think that helping others grow is necessary. I like to push boundaries for, what if I try this? What if I do that? I like to continuously learn. I invest a lot of time in personal development, and I like to lead by example. And that's my family there, my twin boys, Nick and Leon, and my wife, Christina, and our cat, Uma. I do what I do because of them. I do what I do because I like to lead by example. So I'd like to finish my presentation with a quote by Simon Sinek. When we help ourselves, we find moments of happiness. When we help others, we find lasting fulfillment. And that's the way I look at things. Questions, guys. Let's open up the mic for some questions. Use the chat option, guys, if you want to ask me something directly. Oh, looks like we got not a lot of questions. Maybe I've done a really good job and covered everything straight up. Can't unmute. Okay, all right. I'm gonna. Okay, well, if you just want to say something, I will unmute. Yep, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, just gonna say that was very informative. There's heaps of things to go through. My mind is still sort of processing everything that that you've said and presented. But yeah, that was awesome. Thank you for that.
Well, look, I'm a fast thinker and I guess fast talker as well. And one of the things I've learned from the past is you got to record these things, because I'm sure a lot of people go, what did he say? So I will make sure this will go up on our YouTube channel and you guys will get a recording as well. Yeah. Cool. Well, look, overall, the world is full of opportunities, guys. And if there's something that you want to have a chat about, or potentially you're looking, you're looking at, executing, or you're looking for, a reality check on something, yeah, feel free to reach out. Louise, you've got a question. Let me just unmute you so I understand you correctly. Go ahead, Louise.
I was just wondering, as an acupuncturist and under the APRA umbrella, we can't sort of advertise and give, get people to do testimonials and things like that. Does what you're offering with the happy client, does that and getting them to leave a Google review, does that constitute asking them to do it? Does that constitute sort of like?
Yeah, look, great question. APRA is the authority that regulates all the health professionals in relation to their marketing, and asking for reviews is one of the things that's a bit of a difficult one. Now, if you actively say, hey, leave us a review, that is a violation of the whole thing. If you do it in a specific way, it's not quite that, but you have to sort of read the rules. What I found works particularly well for health businesses is QR codes. So one of the things that we've got within Happy Clients is a QR code that is linked to your profile. And the reason why we try to push it for happy clients as opposed to a direct Google link is that if someone leaves you a review below 4 stars, the whole thing will be held as a part of happy clients as opposed to going directly into Google. So we actually want people to leave a review and for you to get it. If someone leaves a review 4 and above, that will go directly straight through to Google and leave that review for you. But QR codes is the answer.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Alexi.
No worries. I've got a couple of people saying thank you, great presentation, and no questions because you've covered everything. Thanks, Teresa. Well, if that's the case, that's excellent. I'm really glad to hear. And like I said, if you got any other questions, let's get in touch and have a chat privately. I'm sure there's probably a few ideas, or your head may be spinning with all this information. I mean, mine is too. It's been quite a year, and as you can imagine, launching all these projects and using them throughout other businesses has been quite interesting as well. Look, guys, I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Stay well, look after yourself, and make sure you have yourself a really good Christmas break.